Compassion and selflessness bring to mind the name of Mother Teresa instantly. Mother Teresa was always busy, literally saving the world. She founded a society called the Missionaries of Charity. However, was she truly as perfect and faultless as everyone thought? Hailed as Saint Teresa of Calcutta within the Catholic Church, her life's purpose was dedicated to caring for the sick and impoverished. But she was also seen by some as a charlatan, despite her reputation for divine spirituality, which lasted until her death on September 5, 1997. Mother Teresa's spirituality was deeply connected to Jesus on the cross, embracing pain and suffering throughout her life. She was never known to keep secrets, yet after her death, several revelations shocked the world. No one knew about her feelings of isolation. The letters she wrote documented her loneliness, which lasted for 6 decades, revealing an inner turmoil she had hidden from the public. On December 11, 1979, the world witnessed a one-of-a-kind scene in Oslo. Mother Teresa, wearing her familiar blue-bordered sari, stood resiliently as she received the Nobel Peace Prize. The world thanked her for her unwavering dedication to the destitute and needy. In her acceptance speech, she talked about her life's mission and emphasized the need to love one's neighbor, invoking Christ's self-sacrifice on the cross. She preached compassion and addressed societal issues like abortion and drug addiction, while celebrating Christmas as a beacon of hope and joy. These were themes she had talked about throughout her life. However, if people believed they knew everything about Mother Teresa, they were mistaken. Beneath her serene facade lay a massive spiritual turmoil. In a private letter to Reverend Michael van der Peet, which only came to light recently, Mother Teresa confessed to an inner torment. She was confused about her faith and revealed a stark dichotomy in her perception of Christ. Despite her outward expressions of unwavering faith, she felt absolute spiritual desolation inside. She expressed that Christ had a special love for others but had left her in silence to deal with an emptiness that wouldn't go away. This letter highlighted Mother Teresa's visceral existential turmoil. Just 11 weeks after sending it, she stood on stage with a happy mask, giving her Nobel acceptance speech. This stark contrast between her public appearance and private anguish was solid proof of her self-contradiction. Mother Teresa was one of the most revered figures of the 20th century, yet after this intimate letter was revealed, the world began to question the perception of her life. On the outside, she exuded serene devotion, captured in silent prayers witnessed by associates and television cameras. But her private correspondence revealed a hidden reality of spiritual dryness, where the divine presence had seemingly vanished. And it wasn't just one letter, soon the whole truth emerged. To understand it fully, one must look at her entire life, starting from her death on September 5, 1997. The world was shaken by the news of Mother Teresa's passing. She took her last breath at the Missionaries of Charity headquarters in Kolkata after years of deteriorating health, including lung, heart, and kidney problems. She ultimately died of cardiac arrest. Known affectionately as the Saint of the Gutters, Mother Teresa was surrounded by her sisters in her final moments, all wearing the white and blue saris of her order. As recounted by her close confidant Sunita Kumar, Mother Teresa's last words were, "I can't breathe," before she passed away. Her successor, Sister Nirmala, announced the news, stating that their beloved founder had suddenly gone to Jesus. The profound impact of her death was felt across nations, with tributes pouring in from dignitaries like Pope John Paul II and President Clinton, who hailed her as a beacon of love and compassion. Despite the global accolades, it was in the streets of Kolkata, her spiritual home, where Mother Teresa's legacy truly flourished. She embodied a selfless devotion that transcended religious divides in a predominantly Hindu nation. If Diana was the Queen of Hearts, Mother Teresa was the Queen of the Poor and human kindness. As India slumbered, unaware of the loss it had incurred, the news of Mother Teresa's demise awakened a profound sense of grief and reverence among those who revered her as a symbol of unwavering kindness. However, during her lifetime, while she was out in the world helping others and maintaining a positive outlook, Mother Teresa fought a parallel battle within herself. Not a single soul knew about her struggles until the truth emerged after her death. On the 4th anniversary of her passing, a startling revelation came to light. Archbishop Henry de Souza disclosed that, months before her death, Mother Teresa had undergone an exorcism. The exorcism occurred because there were suspicions that she was under demonic oppression. This took place in November 1996 during her hospitalization at Brera Hospital in Kolkata. After enduring 2 restless nights, Archbishop D'Souza intervened. Mother Teresa had been hospitalized for angioplasty and was fully aware of the exorcism. She consented to it, and Father Rosario Strue conducted a 30-minute exorcism prayer over her. The Archbishop and Father Strue confirmed her uncharacteristic behavior before the exorcism and emphasized the importance of spiritual interventions in Catholicism. The effects were immediate, with Mother Teresa experiencing tranquility and restfulness afterward. Archbishop D'Souza believed Her Holiness made her susceptible to spiritual attacks, suggesting that even saints could fall prey to malevolent forces. But could there be another reason for the exorcism performed on Mother Teresa? In 2003, a book titled, Mother Teresa, Come Be My Light, was published. It was a compilation of her intimate correspondences spanning 6 decades. These letters revealed a hidden truth. For nearly 50 years, Mother Teresa had struggled with deep spiritual desolation. Despite her tireless acts of charity, she felt an inner void. Interestingly, Mother Teresa had wanted these letters destroyed, but the Church overruled her wishes. On the outside, she appeared cheerful, but internally, she experienced profound spiritual agony. In her letters, she likened her inner turmoil to hell itself. In over 40 letters, she resented her spiritual dryness and even questioned the existence of God. She grappled with the growing gap between her public facade and inner anguish. But how did this compilation come to light? The revelations in Come Be My Light were not the work of a skeptical investigator but of Reverend Brian Coladichuk, a senior member of the Missionaries of Charity and Mother Teresa's postulator, responsible for advocating her path to sainthood. These letters, when pieced together, tell a side of Mother Teresa's life never seen before. Her journey began on September 10, 1946, after 17 years of teaching in Kolkata with the Loreto sisters. At this point, she was exhausted and ill, so she embarked on a 400-mile train journey to Darjeeling for her annual retreat in the Himalayan foothills. During this journey, she claimed to have experienced a divine encounter. The exact prayer dialogue was recounted to Archbishop Ferdinand Perea in January 1947. In that moment, Jesus implored Mother Teresa with urgency, questioning her resolve and challenging her to embrace her calling with full devotion. He spoke of his desire for Indian nuns and missionaries of charity to embody his love in the heart of the impoverished and marginalized. Jesus confronted Teresa with her perceived inadequacies, emphasizing her weakness and sinfulness as qualities destined for a divine purpose. In response, Teresa humbly surrendered herself to Jesus, acknowledging her own limitations and placing her trust entirely in his will. Despite her doubts and insecurities, she expressed a willingness to be used as a vessel for God's glory, even if it meant stepping into unfamiliar and challenging roles. Essentially, Christ had asked her to give up teaching and instead immerse herself in the dire conditions of the slums of Kolkata, where the poorest of the poor were suffering. With absolute conviction, she took this calling very seriously and envisioned a mission that went beyond mere humanitarian aid to encompass a spiritual awakening among the destitute. Despite initial skepticism from local authorities, including Archbishop Ferdinand Perea, Mother Teresa's relentless determination and unwavering faith in her divine mission made her persist. Using a blend of strategic persuasion and spiritual fervor, she navigated bureaucratic hurdles and sought approval for her radical mission. Through prayers and dialogues with Christ, she sought validation for her calling, and during this time, she experienced mystical visions that affirmed her chosen path, which helped her to keep going. Mother Teresa's spiritual journey included the experience of visions, including an encounter with Christ on the cross. This was recounted by her confessor, Father Celeste van Exum, who attested to the authenticity of her mystical experiences, reflecting on her profound union with Jesus. Father Van Exum remarked on the intensity of her connection, suggesting that her communion with the divine transcended earthly bounds. Teresa later expressed the depth of this encounter in simple yet profound words, acknowledging the gift of Jesus' presence in her life. Finally, on January 6, 1948, after consultation with the Vatican, Perea granted Mother Teresa the long-awaited permission to begin her sacred mission. Yet, even as she embarked on this newfound calling, she struggled with the recurring absence of Christ, an emptiness that persisted despite her unwavering devotion. In the early months of 1948, Teresa underwent a rudimentary medical course before she officially began her solitary mission on the streets of Kolkata. Despite the challenges, she felt a sense of inner peace and fulfillment that could not be compared to anything else, believing she was exactly where she needed to be. A typical day on duty for Mother Teresa involved encountering destitute individuals on the brink of death and providing what little aid she could muster, all while surrounded by the grim realities of urban poverty. Recounting her very first day on the job, Mother Teresa shared the story of her encounter with an old man, abandoned and ailing on the streets, to whom she offered solace in the form of carbons and water, earning his unexpected gratitude. Venturing into the Taulala Bazaar, she encountered a destitute woman on the brink of starvation and suffering from tuberculosis, whom Mother Teresa attended to with what aid she could provide, in the hopes of alleviating her suffering, though the outcome remained uncertain. 2 months later, amidst the triumph of securing headquarters for her burgeoning mission, signs of distress emerged in her correspondence with Peria. Despite outward success, Teresa felt lonely and struggled with an insurmountable sense of darkness that pervaded her being. Seeking solace and guidance, she turned to Peria, beseeching him for prayers to ward off feelings of desolation and doubt that plagued her spirit. Peria's reassurances fell short in the face of Teresa's internal turmoil, as she struggled to reconcile her unwavering devotion with the absence of tangible signs of divine presence. Her inability to articulate her innermost struggles compounded her anguish, leaving her isolated in her suffering. Desperate for respite from the relentless onslaught of doubt and despair, Teresa asked Peria for prayers to sustain her faltering faith and maintain her facade of unwavering devotion in the face of profound spiritual desolation. While she was in the depths of her spiritual turmoil, she sought counsel from a confessor and penned a heartfelt plea, delving into the darkest implications of her theological crisis. This letter, along with another from 1959 questioning the very essence of faith, paints a clear picture of her unstable belief in God's existence. In this plea, she wrote about wrestling with feelings of abandonment and despair. She struggled with the sense of isolation and emptiness that had enveloped her soul, questioning the very foundations of her faith and confronting the agonizing silence and darkness that pervaded her existence. Torn between her longing for divine connection and the crushing weight of doubt, Teresa laid bare her inner turmoil, troubled by the seeming absence of God's presence in her life. Faced with relentless doubt and uncertainty, she dared to voice her innermost fears, trembling at the thought of blasphemy yet unable to suppress the questions haunting her soul. The more her mission flourished, the deeper her spiritual desolation became. In a letter to Peria in March 1953, she bared her soul, expressing how much she hated the darkness that had surrounded her being ever since she had begun her work. Peria sent a reassuring response, but it failed to alleviate her escalating despair. Teresa's struggle to reconcile her longing for God with the perceived rejection remained a closely guarded secret, though it soon manifested as a sense of alienation and spiritual emptiness. Her desperate pleas for peace and guidance were evident in her correspondence, but they revealed a soul tormented by doubt and yearning for a connection that seemed forever elusive. Despite the global attention her missionaries of charity attracted, Teresa's inner struggles persisted. Through a succession of confessors, including Van Exum, Peria, Cardinal Lawrence Pitcairn, and later Reverend Joseph Neuner, her mentors witnessed her descent into what she cryptically referred to as her darkness, portraying Jesus as the absent one. During this anguish, a glimmer of hope emerged with the passing of Pope Pius XII in 1958. When Requiem Masses reverberated worldwide, Teresa sought validation from the departed pontiff for her work, experiencing a fleeting reprieve as she basked in a light that momentarily gave her rest from her decade-long torment. However, this respite was temporary, as the darkness swiftly returned, persisting once again. Eventually, in an exchange with Neuner around 1961, Mother Teresa thanked him for his guidance and acknowledged a newfound acceptance of the darkness she had long endured. Contrary to conventional responses to trauma, Teresa embraced her suffering, viewing it as a small reflection of Christ's own agony on earth. Neuner's wise counsel was rooted in 3 principles: first, that there was no human cure for her condition; second, that feeling Jesus wasn't the only way to know he was present; and third, that her craving for his presence indicated he was already with her, even if hidden. This liberated Teresa from her despair, affirming that her yearning for God had purpose. This revelation provided Teresa with a sense of purpose, transforming her anguish into a testament of faith and fortitude. Despite moments of lingering torment, she found solace in the notion that her spiritual struggle mirrored Christ's own ordeal on the cross, imbuing her suffering with profound significance. Grateful for Near's instrumental role in her spiritual journey, Teresa expressed newfound affection for the darkness that had long consumed her soul. Though her anguish persisted, she resolved to embrace God's will, even in the absence of tangible solace. Over time, Teresa's acceptance of her spiritual desolation evolved into a cornerstone of her identity, guiding her steadfast commitment to serving the marginalized. Her reflection on the enduring nature of her suffering, extending even into the afterlife, became a sign of her unwavering dedication to alleviating the darkness of human suffering. Despite theological complexities, Teresa's willingness to endure eternal torment for the sake of others resonated deeply, encapsulating the boundless compassion that defined her legacy. 5 years after receiving the Nobel Prize, Mother Teresa was called to receive the diploma and the gold medal for her efforts in spreading peace. A Jesuit priest recalled her enduring struggle, emphasizing that her agonizing spiritual night had not been a passing phase but a situation that was there to last. References to her spiritual dryness in a letter from 1995 foreshadowed her eventual death in 1997. This compilation of letters, meticulously gathered as part of her canonization process, was meant to reveal a very private struggle hidden beneath the surface of her saintly facade. It is important to understand that the book wasn't compiled to chastise or criticize Mother Teresa. The Church fully acknowledges the phenomenon of spiritual desolation, comparing it to the dark night of the soul. This exact phenomenon was felt by mystics like St. John of the Cross, and Mother Teresa's situation was an example of how one's faith can be tested to its limits. What we gain from this is that despite enduring decades of spiritual aridity, she remained steadfast in her belief and unwavering in her mission to serve the destitute. Reverend Kodiachik sees her dedication in the face of such inner turmoil as her most remarkable feat of spiritual heroism. In the story of Teresa's spiritual journey, a perplexing question emerges: why did her communion with Jesus, once so vivid and sustaining, abruptly vanish as soon as the inception of the missionaries became real? Curiously, both secular and religious interpretations initially run on parallel tracks. They acknowledge the centrality of Catholic spirituality's identification with Christ's enduring suffering on the cross, which is seen as essential for redemption. Teresa herself emphasized this connection, asserting that physical destitution fostered empathy with the poor and deepened her bond with Christ's agonizing sacrifice. Yet, as she set out on her mission, her spiritual wellspring seemed to dry up unexpectedly, leaving her parched and bewildered. Kitchuk suggests a divine purpose in this desertion, crediting Teresa's need for purification against pride, which would be proof of her indomitable spirit. Despite her triumphs, evidenced by her overcoming institutional hurdles and fulfilling Jesus's call, Teresa's internal landscape remained fraught with conflict. Dr. Richard Gottlieb, delving into the psychological intricacies, speculated on the self-imposed nature of her abandonment, a consequence of her relentless pursuit of humility and her fear of claiming credit for her accomplishments. He compared her plight to that of an executive committing a social gaffe in the middle of a career milestone. For Teresa, each win seemed to take a toll of misery, a paradoxical burden she bore in her quest for divine approval. Moreover, Gottlieb suggests that Teresa's assumption of an active role in her ministry might have unsettled her, prompting a retreat into the familiar role of the faithful yet forsaken lover. On the atheist front, Hitchens offers a stark explanation, positing that Teresa experienced a moment of awakening in 1948, much like the disillusionment among die-hard communists. This view, however, is met with resistance from religious circles, who reject attributing Teresa's suffering to self-imposed misery. Martin, presenting an alternative perspective, portrays Teresa as a steadfast spouse, unwavering in her devotion despite the apparent silence of her beloved. In this analogy, Teresa's dedication to her mission, akin to caring for a comatose partner, is an act of profound love and faithfulness. Whatever analogy one might believe in, Mother Teresa's letters paint a picture of complete spiritual agony, all of which was finally revealed to the world after she had died. Why do you think Mother Teresa felt this way? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.